Welcome to Landscape Rescue. Today's video, we're gonna go to one of the local hardware stores and we're gonna dig around in their garden center. It's one of my favorites. Let's see what we can find. All right, so I haven't been here in about 2 weeks. Right out of the gate, I take a right hook, immediately see something I wanna talk about. For the veterans of the channel, you know how much I love the Itoh peony. Now this one's Garden Candy Peach-alicious. Garden Candy Peach-alicious Itoh peony. What are they doing to me? Anyway, this is a Monrovia 5-gallon and they have it priced at $89.74, which has been pretty consistent. That's a pretty consistent wholesale price for a 5-gallon Monrovia Itoh. Now, what I can recommend to folks, I know that is a big pill to swallow. I understand. The reason I like the Itoh so much is because it's a cross between this shrub version here and a tree peony. What it gives us is stiffer stems, so they don't have a tendency to fall over in the summer storms and just randomly falling over, even if it's not a summer storm and it just rains a little bit. Regular peonies have a tendency to just fall down. The Itohs don't do that. If I'm growing peony for cut flowers, like I'm gonna bring them inside, these are a lot cheaper. The shrub form is a lot cheaper. If I'm leaving them in the landscape, so I'm using the Itoh or I'm using peony to enhance the landscape and I'm gonna keep the flowers in the landscape, I spring for the Itoh. Now this is a very cool one. It's a very pretty color. The one you guys are most commonly probably see is Bartzilla. That's this one here. Oh, there we go. And the Bartzilla is yellow and absolutely beautiful. I do have a lot of yellows, so I want to spring for the peachy colored ones. I think those are absolutely stunning. Now you can find them at Lowe's. Not in a 5, we usually see them in a 3, and they're usually around $60. You know, do the mental math and figure it out. This is right where Lowe's pricing would be. But that's a really good deal. They retail for a lot higher than that. This is a retail establishment. They just have stupid good prices. It's one of my favorite places to shop. I have to admit, I do not feel very good. I have had a cold for about 4 days now, so I'm very nasally. I apologize. I can just imagine a guy that talks as much as I do with a nasally voice, irritating. It's a little early, but they've already got Echinacea out, which I think is really cool. Echinacea is very, very tough, so we can put those out a little early and not feel too guilty if we get some late freezes. So let's run through them. Right here we have a Kismet Yellow. Now, the cool thing about that Kismet series is they don't get super, super tall. So about 18 inches, and then eventually it's gonna get wider, right? So 2 feet, you know, with all the little pups and everybody kind of springing to life once it's happy. I have huge success with Echinacea using those 2-year fertilizer tablets and some sort of inoculant. I was digging around earlier. I ended up picking up like 22 pounds of black oil sunflower seeds because I don't know, I'm crazy and I like to just throw them around like a Johnny Appleseed because I love sunflowers. Anyway, I was in there earlier and I found that they have those smaller 4-pound bags of the Biotone all-purpose. So that would also be a good inoculant for these, but I really have great success with the 2-year fertilizer tablets. Now this one's Kismet Yellow, and they have this priced at $11.84 in a Monrovia pot. That's a pretty good deal. Now here is the Sombrero Salsa Red. This one gets a little taller. This is a 24 by 24, right? So 2 by 2, 2 foot by 2 foot. I love red Echinacea because it's not something that we see very often, and it really makes a big impact, especially when you have it with those other colored Echinacea. It really stands out. You know, those more standard colors that we see in Echinacea, this really pops. If you're doing a strictly Echinacea area, like maybe a drier spot in your landscape that you have a hard time keeping stuff going in, Echinacea would be a good way to kind of fill that space, kind of a fire and forget area. This would be kind of like your middle tier, right? So this would be the 24 by 24s, and then you could step forward with maybe something from the Kismet series that would get a little smaller, and then just kind of tier your way up. Wow, that would be gorgeous. This is called Moab Sunset, and this is a very orange colored Echinacea, which I really like. And it's got a different type of petal, so the flower is a little bit more on the unique side because it has some fringe that surrounds that cone in the center. Now this one's not gonna get as big as, say, the one we just talked about, which is the Sombrero Red Salsa. This is kind of going to be in between the Kismet Yellow at about 18 inches. It's really important when you're planning out your echinacea that you don't just think all echinacea are gonna get, you know, the same size. I've ran into that quite frequently, especially when I start getting pups and seedlings start popping up and I'm transplanting them into other areas. A lot of the times the smaller varieties will get put in the back and they just kind of get lost. It frustrates me a little bit because I should do better about marking things. In my defense, those seedlings, you just see an echinacea come up and you're like, oh, I don't want you there, I'm gonna transplant you, and then it's a smaller variety. For the most part, I walk around the garden enough, I get to enjoy the ones that maybe are kind of in the back a little bit, not as tall as everything else, but I do get to enjoy them. Just keep that in mind. It's good to know how tall your echinacea gets, so do as I say, not as I do, and do a better job of marking things so I know how big stuff gets. This one is called Double Scoop Watermelon Deluxe Coneflower. And again, this is from Monrovia. If you want to look any of these up and get some more in-depth information about these, go to monrovia.com. I love that website. I use that quite frequently just to do research. They have a very good filter on there. I've been using it for a decade and a half just to figure things out. You can set it to where this is the kind of sun I'm looking for, this is the kind of zone that I'm in, this is the type of plant that I want it to be. Compile a list for you to kind of look around and keep, if nothing else, keep your eyes open for the brick and mortar spots. But this is a big boy, this is a 2x2, so just keep that in mind. It still has a cone on it. I'm kind of anti big puffball echinaceas because I want the seeds and I want the pollen for the pollinators. This would still give you that, and this is the Double Scoop Watermelon. Very cool. All right, now this one is Kismet, so that Kismet series Raspberry. And this one is an 18-incher, so this would kind of maybe be middle tier if I didn't have any black-eyed Susans that I was gonna incorporate. This would be a real pretty one. I'm just a fan of all these cool echinacea. I'm a big fan. Even there's some nuance to the purple echinacea. You'll find some that are maybe a little darker pink, not so much purple, but more dark pink. And then you have some that are dark purple that are really pretty. So this one was the Kismet Raspberry Echinacea. And this last one here is the Panama Red Echinacea, Panama Red coneflower, more of a reddish orange. The one thing that I do know about these Echinacea is when they initially pop, they're usually a little darker, and then as that petal ages, it lightens up a little bit. So there's a lot of dynamics with these because you have some, like you can see, some are getting ready to pop, some are kind of getting done. They probably got burned by a frost. Now this one's an 18-incher, right? So this is not, you know, not as big. I think it's 18 inches, let me look. Oh, 14, so this one's 14. So this one can be right up front. Yeah, so that's cool. I like the fact that we can tier Echinacea now. It's not just giant, like the Ruby Star is probably my favorite Echinacea just because I love that big impact that it creates, and it probably has 25, 30 flowers on it, you know, once they get established. And getting them established quick, I think, is key with Echinacea, because the sooner we can get them going, the sooner we start getting free plants off of them. Once you get some Echinacea and you're diligent, you can really start creating your own little home nursery. It's a fun thing to do. All of the Echinacea we just looked at were $11.84, so that was the price of all of them. This is something fun that we don't see very often. Jacob's Ladder. I used to just scour the internet looking for variegated Jacob's Ladder at the nursery I used to work at because I was always trying to find it. It was such a cool plant. Cannot handle a lot of sun and a lot of heat. I was losing these in a 70-30 greenhouse. That 70% sun was the breakdown on the shade tarp. It was filtering out 30% of the sunlight, and I was losing them. Definitely morning sun, shielded from the hot afternoon with Jacob's Ladder. But what a cool plant. What a neat texture to incorporate with like big hostas, these big leaf hostas. Here's a blue angel hosta with the Jacob's Ladder right next to it. And I think that texture contrast is just beautiful. The thing about shade, you gotta be creative with shade. You gotta kind of work off of a little nuance when it comes to shade and be very creative, because you don't have that just pop of color that you get from full sun. So shade, a lot of people say, oh, I love shade. Shade gardens are my favorite. It's just because they're challenging. Now, this Jacob's Ladder in the 1 gallon is $11.84. It's kind of one of the rubs We can find some of this stuff a little less expensive other places, but where am I going to find Jacob's ladder? Does that make sense? So I'm willing to pay the extra $1.50 to get a Jacob's ladder here because I've got it. The struggle's real, I understand. Here's something else really neat, and I don't see these very often, even at the nursery where I was ordering things. The variegated Japanese iris. And this, very pretty. This one's gonna get 2 feet tall by 2 feet wide. If you've got a spot that maybe is holding a little water, or a spot that you have to water more because you have your hardy hibiscus in there, you have your panicle hydrangeas in there, this would be a good companion for either one of those things because they need the same environment. So maybe my central focal point is a weeping pussy willow, and I have some hardy hibiscus around it, and then I've got some of these Japanese iris around there. I can water it heavy. I can put a heavy layer of mulch in there. I can water it heavy because I know they all like the same environment. The last thing I want to do is plant those 3 things in there, right? And then have Elijah blue fescue and some Russian sage in there. Does that make sense? Because they just don't like the same environment. Okay. So most likely I'm gonna end up losing the Jacobs, or I'm gonna end up losing the Elijah blue fescue. I'm gonna end up losing the Russian sage because I'm taking too good of care of that area. We're gonna run through daylilies really quick. I was kind of excited. Somebody left a comment that says, hey, what do you think about daylilies? And I'm like, I love daylilies. I don't know if there's another versatile plant out there right now that I can think of that is that versatile. I mean, you can find them all over the place. They self-propagate, so it's just like you just divide them up 3 years later and you have more daylilies than you know what to do with. And there's so many different varieties. So let's run through daylilies real quick. This is a Stella d'Oro, and they're usually, not very expensive, $9.84. We see these at Lowe's, probably in the $8 range a lot of the time. Stellas are more of an orangish yellow. I really like the Stella. It's an oldie but a goodie. I think I deal with the vast majority of the landscapers didn't really use any other daylilies than Stellas because that was one of the staples that never really disappointed them, right? So when you're building a landscape that you're held accountable for, you want something that pops, you want something that rocks, and the Stella will do it. Now I like to trim the more grass-like daylilies like the Stellas about midsummer, and I like to get them to pop again. A lot of times you can do that right after they bloom. I have cut Stellas back that have maybe got some rust on them or something like that in the nursery setting. 2 weeks later, they've flushed out pretty good. And it's a tough plant. All right, this one is called Island Bonfire Kokomo Daylily. Very pretty on the picture, very pretty. So yellow with that orangish red throat. Great for pollinators, man. Now this isn't a big one, 18 inches is what it says on the tag, but that is the Kokomo Island Bonfire Kokomo Daylily. Very pretty. Okay, so now we're getting into the taller daylily area. So this one's gonna get about 32 inches tall, which means it's gonna have that big long bloom stem. Now, most of the time when you see this, when you see the height and width on daylilies, it's not necessarily the foliage itself, it's more the bloom, right? So they're measuring the bloom. So this is a nice tall one, and this is gonna be really neat because you can place this in places where that flower can kind of punch through the foliage of other plants and just kind of surprise you. So think about that. I've got some of those pink ruffles that do that mixed in with my panicle hydrangeas with the blue bobos in my front yard, and they pop up kind of from the back and just kind of show off a little bit from the back. Take some of the pressure away from those bobos to perform for me. Why? All right, so this is Preppy Pink Daylily. Very good looking, almost three colors in this one. So the next one on the list is gonna be the Purple Daora. This one is like a Stella Daora, but purple. I find they're different enough. Like the Purple Daora still isn't quite where the Stella is as far as the amount of blooms, but they do bloom very well. And it is a very nice tertiary opposite for the Stella. So a combination of these two is really nice. I do think, this says 24 by 24. I think the Stella Daora or the Purple Daora gets a little bigger. Like the blooming stem is a little longer. It's an amazing combo either way. I'm a huge fan of the Purple Daora. I like them. Okay, this is one that I mentioned earlier. I didn't know it was in this group, but here it is, the Happy Returns Daylily. This is an oldie but a goodie. This is my go-to versus the Stella because it's a more canary yellow color versus an orangish yellow. Very orange, very yellow. So kind of opposites, and they do really well with each other. I think where the Stella has smaller flowers, so that the flower is just smaller. I don't really know the measurements, where the Happy Returns is a larger flower. So a combination of this with a purple Daora or any of the other colored daylilies bloom really well, and they're good opposites of each other. And so they show up to the party. I'm a big fan of the Happy Returns. Pardon Me daylily, another old one, right? So we're thinking about, if I had a garden center, I would have a Stella Daora, I would have a purple Daora, I would have a Happy Returns, and I would have a Pardon Me, because all of the contractors in my area, these are the daylilies that they're used to, so these are the daylilies that they request. You know, Moonlit Masquerade is a beautiful daylily. I love it, but nobody knows what it is, so nobody buys them. When you're dealing with contractors that kind of live in their silos when it comes to plants, it's the path of least resistance for them. I do not bust their chops about it. It is what it is. So this is the Pardon Me. It's more of a traditional daylily in the sense that it has a longer stem on it. They are pretty. Red with a very small yellow throat. What's not to love? I mean, these are great. They don't bloom for me as well as they do, as well as the Happy Returns and the Stellas do. And the purple Daoras seem to bloom better than the Pardon Me's, but who cares? You can always have Pardon Me in there somewhere. I don't know, I think we have seen these before. I just wanted to show you guys these adorable little Shishi Garciras in the 2-gallon pot, and they've got these priced at $89.74. I mean, that's okay. That's an okay price. I'm not gonna text my mom about it or anything, but it's okay. It's also in a Monrovia, which Shishi Garciras aren't, I don't believe, patented, so there's no plant agreement with those. Anybody can grow those. This is kind of a small little dogwood for 20 bucks. Start buying one of those every 2 weeks, plant it, keep it watered. That'd be awesome. That'd be really cool, actually. Kind of build your wood line, 20 bucks at a time. I've had really good success with getting dogwoods and redbuds from the local Forest Service. I enjoy doing that. This is a Fraser Photinia. Look how pretty this guy is. Look at that. And the Fraser Photinia is like a large shrub. I mean, they get big. But the new growth is this red color. So whenever you trim them and whenever it will pop new growth out, the new growth is red. So even in the summer, after everything turns green, you can just trim it. They make beautiful hedges. It's a zone 7. This is a Fraser Photinia, a zone 7. And they got these priced at $29.84, which is a decent price for a 3-gallon. And these are very healthy looking. It's gonna take some time. There's gonna be a time investment in this, but they do get big. And I wanted to say, I was gonna say 8 by 8, but it's an evergreen that reaches 10 to 12 feet tall, 6 to 8 feet wide. So yeah, they're big old boys. I like them a lot better trimmed. I like them a lot better planted in mass than I do as a single specimen. So that is the Fraser Photinia, really cool plant. Not very hardy for my zone which is zone 6. We get some nasty weather periodically and they really don't like that. I would love to do an experiment where maybe I plant a hedge of these and then I use wilt proof over the winter to see if I can keep those going. Might be worth a shot. I also wanted to say hi to the newest members of Landscape Rescue. So they've joined the channel. They're members of the channel, $2.99 a month. They've decided that they're getting enough value out of this that they wanted to do that. Congratulations, guys. Tammy Brown, thank you very much. Orchid, I'm just gonna call you Orchid because I think it's Orchid Alilium. They're gonna have to teach me how to say that. Von Sarah, I appreciate all you guys. Thank you very much for contributing to the channel. It does help me out a ton, if nothing else, just because I know people care. All right, and all of the subscribes and all of the likes. I really do appreciate it, guys. My name's Stuart Moore. This is Landscape Rescue, and thank you very much for letting me into your home talk about plants.